Hey folks, Nick here from another BookTube channel. Today, showing off Boy Maximortal, new Maximortal from Rick Veitch. Um, I am a big Rick Veitch fan. I've mentioned it many times on the channel before, and I've done one of these videos on the Maximortal in the past. It was right around the time Oppenheimer, the movie, came out, and I promoted this as the best Oppenheimer adaptation out there, which this is a terrific series. Max Immortal is absolutely a fantastic comic, a masterpiece, and it's part of this King Hell Heroica that Rick Veitch started back in the early '90s that was unfinished. He did Brat Pack in 1990, and then he did Max Immortal in '92, and they were only supposed to be two of, I think, 5 or 6 volumes of the King Hell Heroica that he had planned. Brat Pack was volume 4, kind of like starting the way like Star Wars did, in the middle. And then Max Immortal was volume 1. But then we never got any more King Hell Heroica until 2017, when Rick Veitch started to self-publish. Well, he's always been self-publishing, but he decided to publish Boy Maximortal through Amazon's print-on-demand service. So that's where this came from. It's the only place you can buy the Boy Maximortal books. He released them as single issues over the course of the past, gosh, I guess 7 years. If the first issue was 2017, there was 4 issues, oversized, thick format, and 2024, or maybe it was late 23, when this paperback collection finally came out. So it's been a long time in the making. 7 years of just Boy Maximortal, but then close to 30 since the Maximortal itself. So is Boy Maximortal, does it live up to what the Maximortal created? Because I think this is, like I said, one of the best, alternative comics ever. It's an absolute masterpiece. It's crazy. It's weird, and I'm happy to say that Boy Maximortal does continue in that tradition. However, I was a little bit disappointed with the art in here, which is really it's tough to say, because I love Rick Veitch so much. I think he's one of the most innovative cartoonists that I've ever seen. And my big issue with the Boy Maximortal is I just don't feel like it was innovative enough. I feel like it. Let me show you. It's probably best that way. First, you'll notice that this trade is actually smaller than the original Maximortal, which I think might be something that contributes, and I'll talk about that a little bit as well. But let's go ahead and I'll start flipping through this. This is the original cover for Boy Maximortal #1. And things, I honestly didn't notice anything was off in the early going. I'm not going to go through the story very much, because I do want you guys to read this, and I want you to be able to discover it on your own. I will just say that this kind of picks up where Maximortal left off, with our superhero who has been, he was last seen escaping like the government facility where he was being held, and now he's living as like a normal teenager, in in a small town with his adopted father, who is the creator of True Man, the comic book. If you read Maximortal, then you get why that's important. And this all looks really, really good to start. And then we got to this page here, and this is where things I started to notice kind of being a little bit off. And what I noticed more than anything is the lettering is digital, which is a little disappointing. Like the actual word bubble lettering. First of all, I should say I'm pretty sure all of this art's digital, so maybe that's a silly thing to say. But the lettering itself is not like, it's obviously not a cartooning font. It seems very like basic and just flat, and like the letters are just kind of floating there. Like, look at Dry Goods, just kind of hanging out, kind of off center. Like, look at this sign and how stretched out the text looks. Like, that's what I mean. Like, things are not quite as super polished. And this makes sense because Rick Veitch is, as he's doing this first issue, approaching 70 years old. He's 72 today. And these comics, he's not getting paid, like, for this, He's not doing this for a studio. Like I said, these are Amazon print on demand. So the only people that are buying this are the people like me who know Rick Veitch and who like his esoteric stuff and are going to seek this out and be willing to put down some money for it. So you're not going to get, there's no like comic shop, just like seeing this on the shelf and picking it up, like that kind of shopping. So it's understandable if he wants to take some shortcuts. And it's stuff like this spread that really gave me pause, because I was looking at this and I'm saying, why does this seem off to me? And I compare it to like a spread in Maximortal. And what I came to the conclusion of is, look at how much more black and shading is in Maximortal than there is in Boy. Like, there's very minimal where it has to be, but there's not a ton. Like, look at all like the black here. There's a lot of dramatic lighting in the original Maximortal series that is missing here. Like, there's not a single shadow in this entire panel, which is a very like detailed looking convenience store. There's a lot of opportunity for dramatic lighting there, and you kind of see that throughout. Like, black is only used as a color and not really dramatically. And that's a little bit disappointing. That's to its detriment, I would say. The art is still good, but I feel like, when you've seen what Veitch can do, I couldn't help but feel disappointed that he's not still doing that, and that he's just, we're getting this version, which is like the light version, the free version, even though this is, not free. Another thing that really bummed me out is that I consider Rick Veitch to be one of the most innovative cartoonists of all time in terms of page layouts. And you can see he used a lot of square, like the grid in Maximortal, but he would play with them. Like, I think of this Hiroshima sequence, for instance. I consider that like one of the greatest sequences in comics at all time. We got a lot of like varying sizes, the size squared panels, and we also have this sequence here, which is told with a ton of like irises in the top corner and like lots of text. Like, he's really shaking things up, doing a lot of different things. And here, what we're seeing here, this is the only instance of Rick Veitch playing with page layout in this series, and that's really a bummer. These sequences are from the perspective of like a government agent who's stopping in and visiting people, doing certain missions, collecting certain information, and so you have his liner notes about what he took on the mission, and then some images to accompany it. So that's really it. Like, there's no real playing with the form in this series. It's all just the grid. And that was really disappointing to me. I do like this sequence because this is him playing with deeper shadows. When I saw this, I was like, okay, we're back on track. This doesn't come back. Like, it kind of drops out. And then for the remainder of the series, it's primarily just flat white with very minimal shading. But again, you have some really great stuff. This is a whole sequence where there's a character who's named Jack Curtis, who's Jack Kirby. Jack Curtis was one of Kirby's earliest pen names that he signed his art as. And if you read Maximortal, you know how entrenched this series is in comic book history as well, and how it folds that into the narrative. So this is just a sequence with a Jack Kirby stand-in. And what's really cool is that Jack Kirby was in World War II. So our character here is getting like flashbacks to World War II in the world around him as he's walking. And Veitch does a pretty good job of capturing the Kirby style for the most part. Although, again, like these sequences here, like, just look at how just white. There's very little like line down. and it just doesn't look great. But then you have something like this, which is awesome, where Jack Kirby becomes like the Incredible Hulk. This panel here with that dramatic lighting, that's a direct swipe. Like that's just from the Incredible Hulk #1, I believe. So that's more. I wouldn't even say that that's part of the storytelling. That's just part of like the swiping. Rick Veitch is using a lot of reference in this series. He uses real people a lot, like J. Edgar Hoover. You also see there's a little Doctor Strangelove sequence in later where you have straight up stills of George C. Scott from the movie that are just recreated in here. So he's using a lot of reference for a lot of the faces for the historical figures. And here's where I want to start talking about this being a digital project and maybe the scale of the book being a little bit off. This one isn't too bad. So Maximortal, as a superhero, can basically like break down his particles and then reshape his form. It's how he transforms into being this schlubby teenager to being a superhero. And let me see if I could find a really good example of this. So you look here at like the particle effect he's got going on, and I think I have a pretty good camera here, and it kind of helps you see what he's going for. But when you get down to like this level where you're just reading it from a regular eye distance, this starts to look really like smudgy and muddy. And I think maybe what he's doing there, one of two things, is he's zooming in really, really close and then drawing these things, with intense detail. But more than likely, the second option is he's creating a texture. So I think a lot of these shapes are very clearly repeating. So I think he's just drawing a texture down. But it's too small, and it's creating this blurry effect that doesn't read well. And that kind of becomes a theme, especially in the vegetation in this book. Like these trees look completely out of place compared with the other line style that's being like. Look at the lines of this character, but then look at the fuzziness of the tree behind it. And I don't even know if it's going to come across in the camera very well, but it doesn't look. They look like they're part of two separate comic books. And that's something that continues throughout. And here's a panel where it really shows. Because there's a lot of different type of vegetation in this panel. And I think it's probably just the texture. And this all just seems like a digital blurry texture, which on top of it is overlaid these incredibly clean, crisp black ink lines. And it creates a juxtaposition that doesn't work. And it's really frustrating because, like I said, it happens over and over. There's a lot of instances. This is an entire sequence in a jungle where I feel like I'm seeing the same vegetation repeated. Like it looks like it's almost he drew one piece of it and then copied and pasted it. Like all these branches and tree limbs like look the same as each other, and they don't at all match the characters in the foreground. That this whole sequence is like that. Like this one is just totally off. So the digital stuff really, really bugged me in this book. But I also don't blame Veitch for using it because, again, he's probably not getting a ton of money for this. This is a passion project. So, and he's an old guy. He's an old man. I don't. It's not that I don't think he can do it anymore. I think I understand that he doesn't want to do it at that level, especially if maybe he has plans to try to get out more of the King Hal Heroica. But he also, this is my favorite panel in here because this is the style I associate with Rick Veitch, like this airbrush kind of ink wash, whatever he does here to get the gradients, to get the different shading. Like this is what I associate with him. And then I compare it immediately on what's across the page, and it just looks so different and so weird and so alien. And then again, he's using digital backgrounds here. You can see the sky, like these clouds are very clearly just digital clouds. It's just a digital background laid in there. It's disappointing. He's using, this is obviously a photograph that's been augmented in some way. I don't know what the technical terms are, But yeah, I'm going to stop at this point. I don't want to show you too much of the back half of the book, because despite everything I said about the art being a little bit disappointing, this is a really cool story. And seeing the Maximortal story continue is something that I didn't expect to ever happen. And the writing continues to be very, very strong. The way that Rick Veitch takes real historical events and hammers them into his superhero narrative, it's incredibly intelligent. It's so smart, and I highly recommend it for that reason. If you enjoy Maximortal, you're gonna enjoy this, and you might even be able to overlook all of the shortcomings of the art, in my opinion, which I've laid out here. Let me know your thoughts if you've read this. Am I being too picky? I don't know. I might be, but I love Rick Veitch so much for all of the things that he doesn't do in here. Let me know your thoughts if you've read this in the comments below. Let me know if there's anything that I missed that should be pointed out. Thank you very much for spending some time with me today, but now it's time to get back to reading.